You're not just a viewer, you're a part of this journey. Subscribe today, and let's make 1,000 subscribers our shared victory. I was choking. My own brother-in-law's hands were around my throat, and the last thing I heard before my vision went dark was my sister's voice. She wasn't screaming for help. She wasn't crying out my name. She was saying, "You should have just signed the loan." My name is Captain Sarah Mitchell. I am a United States Army officer. And that night, in my own sister's living room, I learned that blood does not always mean loyalty. But what my family didn't know, what they never bothered to ask, was what I did before I ever put on this uniform. And that mistake was about to cost them everything. 3 years ago, I earned my commission. I served with honor. I came home on leave expecting warmth, pride, maybe a welcome home dinner. Instead, I found a family in crisis, but not the kind you'd expect. My sister Jenna and her husband, Marcus, had bought a house far beyond what they could afford. New cars, private school for their kids, vacations posted online with captions like "blessed." All of it built on credit, on loans, on borrowed time. And now the bank was calling. The house was underwater. And they needed a guarantor, someone with a stable income and clean credit, to co-sign a massive new loan just to keep the lights on. They looked at me. "You're an officer now," Marcus said, smiling like this was a reunion gift. "You've got the credit score. Just sign here." I asked questions. Reasonable ones. How much? What's the repayment plan? What happens if you default? Marcus got quiet. Jenna got defensive. "Family helps family," she said. "Or is the army too good for us now?" I said no, not like that. Not blindly. I offered to help them build a real budget, talk to a financial counselor, even lend them money directly, money I could afford to lose. But that wasn't what they wanted. They wanted my name on the dotted line. And when I refused, something in that house changed. At first it was small. Passive comments at family dinners. Jenna telling our mother I had changed since joining the army, that I'd become cold and selfish. Then the calls started. Late at night. Marcus, sometimes drunk, telling me I owed them. That family was the only thing that mattered. That my career meant nothing if I couldn't help the people who raised me. I hadn't been raised by Marcus. I hadn't even known him 10 years ago. But somehow, in his mind, my refusal to hand him my financial future was a personal betrayal. I tried to keep peace. I sent money for my niece's school supplies. I paid for my nephew's soccer cleats. I showed up to every birthday, every holiday, smiling through gritted teeth. But the debt collectors kept calling their house. And every time they did, the pressure on me grew heavier. Then one evening, Jenna called me in tears. "Please," she said, "just come over. We need to talk. One last time. No pressure, I promise." I should have known better. I didn't. I drove to their house that night with good intentions. I brought paperwork, a real plan, a debt consolidation option, a way forward that didn't involve destroying my own finances. The moment I walked in, I felt it. The air was wrong. Marcus was pacing. Jenna wouldn't look at me. "Sit down," Marcus said. Not a request. I stayed standing. "What's going on?" That's when he shoved the loan documents into my hands. "Sign it. Tonight. Or we lose everything, and it's on you." I said no, calmly, firmly, one final time. That's when he grabbed me. It happened fast. A shove that sent me into the wall. My shoulder hitting the corner of a bookshelf, pain exploding through my arm. I tried to push him off, and his fist caught my face. I felt blood, warm and sudden, on my lips. Then his hands were on my throat. I remember gasping. I remember the room tilting. I remember Jenna standing in the doorway, not screaming for him to stop, not calling for help. She said, "You should have just signed the loan." Those words replayed in my mind like a slow-motion nightmare, even as the room went dark around the edges. But my training didn't disappear just because I was scared. In that final second of consciousness, my hand found my phone. And my thumb found the emergency trigger I had set up months earlier, a silent SOS, sending my location and a live audio feed straight to emergency services and a trusted contact. Then, darkness. I don't remember losing consciousness completely. What I remember is fragments. The front door bursting open. Bright lights. Voices, sharp, commanding, official. Stand down. Hands behind your head. You are assaulting a federal officer. Marcus froze. Jenna screamed finally, but for the wrong reason. Not for me. For herself. The officers who arrived weren't ordinary police. My emergency contact, a friend still on active duty, had escalated the call the moment she heard what was happening through that live feed. Within minutes, both local police and military police had arrived because the assault had occurred against an active duty officer, and that changes everything, legally and procedurally. I woke up in a hospital bed, my shoulder in a brace, my face bandaged, a nurse gently checking my vitals. The first face I saw wasn't Jenna's. It was a detective, notebook in hand, asking me to recount everything I remembered. I told her all of it. Every word, every hand, every excuse. The investigation moved fast. My phone's SOS recording had captured the entire assault, Marcus's threats, the physical attack, and Jenna's chilling response, all documented in real time. There was no room for denial. No room for he didn't mean it, or it was just an argument that got out of hand. Marcus was arrested that same night. Assault on a service member carries serious federal weight, and the evidence was undeniable. Jenna wasn't arrested, but she wasn't spared either. When investigators reviewed the recording and understood she had witnessed the assault and done nothing, said nothing to help me, questions arose about her own conduct and about the safety of her children in that home. Child Protective Services opened an inquiry. Not because I asked for it, but because the recording exposed a home where violence was excused and normalized in the name of money. My mother called me, sobbing, begging me to fix this, to speak to the prosecutor, to make it go away for the sake of the family. I told her something I had never said out loud before. I am done protecting people who never protected me. The weeks that followed were the hardest of my life, harder, in some ways, than anything I had faced in uniform. Family members took sides. Some called me a hero for surviving. Others called me heartless for destroying the family by cooperating with investigators. I sat through it all with my shoulders still healing, my face still bruised, and I did not waver. Because here is what I finally understood. The people who truly love you do not put a price on your safety. They do not stay silent while you are being hurt. They do not tell you that signing away your future is the cost of belonging. Jenna reached out once, weeks later, asking to meet. I agreed cautiously in a public place.
She cried.
She apologized, sort of. She said she panicked, that she didn't know what to do, that she never wanted this to happen. I asked her one simple question. If I had signed that loan that night, would any of this have happened? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Months later, the case went to court. I testified, calmly and clearly, laying out every detail exactly as it happened. The assault, the injuries, the words spoken while I was fighting to breathe. The recording played for the jury. I watched their faces change as they heard Marcus's threats, the violence, and Jenna's cold response in the background. Marcus was convicted. He received a sentence that reflected the seriousness of what he had done, not just to me, but to the trust a family is supposed to protect. Jenna, though not criminally charged, lost far more than a case. She lost custody arrangements were reviewed. She lost the support of extended family who could no longer look past what the recording revealed. And she lost me, not out of hatred, but out of necessity for my own healing. I returned to duty eventually, my shoulder healed, my resolve stronger than ever. I carried the physical scars quietly, but the emotional weight I chose to release.
I did not do this for revenge.
I did not celebrate anyone's downfall. What I did was refuse to disappear, refuse to let silence protect the people who had hurt me, and refuse to sacrifice my future to guilt. The badge on my uniform means service, sacrifice, and protection for my country, and now I realized for myself as well. Families should never demand that you destroy your future to prove your love. Real love does not come with financial threats. Real family does not stay silent while you are suffering. If someone in your life makes you feel guilty for protecting yourself, that is not love. That is control disguised as loyalty. I survived that night not just because of training, but because I had already decided, long before that day, that my safety mattered. That my no was valid. That I did not owe anyone my future just because we shared blood. Sometimes the hardest battles are not fought overseas. Sometimes they happen in the houses we grew up believing were safe. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to sign.